Okay, one of the best tests you can do if you're testing your electrical circuits, start off with a resistance test is kind of iffy at best for using to diagnose certain circuits. A better test, and I don't have the battery connected for this, so you just have to bear with me and I'll explain it as I go along. A better test is going to be a voltage drop test. And which I'm just picking this circuit here because it's right here readily available. And this has nothing to do with what I'm turn signals or tail lights or headlights or anything like that. So for instance, this is just, actually this is for the module, but doesn't really matter. It could be anything. So, you got power coming in on this side. So let's say you tested the battery, you check the battery voltage. Battery voltage is just for purposes, we're going to say 13 volts. Okay, 13 volts is good. What you do is you come in on this side here and do a voltage drop test. You'd measure this side, and let's say it's 12.8 volts, which is good. And then you go over this side over here and you test it. And for sake of demonstration, we're going to say it's 11.8 volts. That's not so good. Yeah, that means you got a pretty hefty voltage drop right there across that circuit. So if you're going to test it with resistance, you did a simple resistance test from this side to this side over here, and it said it was 0, so it had 0 ohms resistance. Well, the problem with that statement is it could have absolutely one strand of wire on either side, one strand of wire, we'll just say on this side, that has one strand. It's going to read 0. It ain't going to carry any kind of current through it, but it's going to say 0. So you go in there and fix this side of the wire, and you come back and test it again. Replace the pen, whatever. Pull it apart, check the connectors, make sure they're good to go as far as making good contact between the terminals or pens or sockets or whatever they're using in that particular instance. And you fix it. Then you go back and test it. Oh, look, I got 12.8 volts across there now. And where that's going to matter is it's not carrying the current through it. So it's going to heat up, and a lot of times what you see, this is a white connector. You'll see that some of these white connectors will be tan, like in one area. That's a clue. Just say right there, let's say on this side right here, say it was all tan right here and kind of looked like it'd been melted. It absolutely had high resistance in there. That's where resistance plays in. As resistance goes up, it's causes heat, and that's when you see melted connectors because it got hot because just say it's just barely touching. The sleeve where the terminals go together are loose, but you wouldn't know that by doing resistance tests because you could test it here and there and get perfect resistance across it, but it ain't going to work. Usually, though, you would have certain circuits that are susceptible to this. More likely are headlight or tail light, any kind of lights really. Harnesses tend to vibrate more in that area, especially if it's on the back end of the tail light there. Same thing. So what's going to happen? Forget this. We'll go to the tail light there. You notice that your bulb's dim. And maybe flickering sometimes when you're going down the road. Somebody tells you, oh, your headlight, your tail light's going on and off. Your tail light's flickering going down the road. Well, a lot of times that can be just the bulb's loose because them bulbs do get an 1157 bulb or 1156 or whatever you got in there can get loose in the socket. I don't have a bulb out here, but you get two pieces of lead, especially on 1157, two pieces of lead soldered on the end of the bulb. And that actually makes contact with 2 points in there. Well, some bikes, it'll wear that lead away at the bulb, and that's an easy one. You just put a new bulb in there. Let's just say you tested the voltage at the, you stuck your probe into the tail light socket, and same thing, you got 11 volts, we'll say. Well, that's really low back there, especially if you had 13 at the battery, or even 12.8 with the key on. So next step, you would go up to the harness for the tail light, and then you take that harness, and same thing, you're going to measure one side to the other, and same thing, you measure the back side, and it says 11 volts. You measure the front side, and it says 12.8 volts. Well, with that circuit right there where that plug is, you know that you got giant voltage drop across there, almost 2 volts, 1.8 voltage drop. That's a lot. But just for instance, we're going to say that checked out fine. You check this side, and you only had 11 volts on the front side of it where it's feeding back to that harness. Well, then you're going to have to go up further to the front. You find the connector for that one, wherever it is on your particular bike. And same thing, you're going to measure it all the way up to the front here, or to the front, wherever your main harness goes. And sometimes what you find is you got low voltage everywhere. So you would want to grab you actually test the voltage at the key switch, your ignition switch, and see what you got going on in there. Typically you should have, if you have 13 volts at the battery, 12.8, whatever, we'll just say 13. You should have 13 up at your key switch and the power going in. So say you do. You flip the switch on, and then you're going to want to check the power wire going out of the switch. Check the power going out of the switch, and it only reads 11.5. So you're getting a giant voltage drop actually through the ignition switch. When that happens, you might notice that everything's a little bit dim on the bike, as far as might not start right. Your gauges might be dimmer. Your headlight might be dim. Everything in the bike, electrically, it really isn't working, because you're only getting, there again too, you're getting almost a 2 volt drop through the ignition switch that feeds everything else. Goes to the fuse panel or circuit breakers or whatever. So we'll just go back to that voltage drop test. Much better than a simple resistance test. It isn't going to really tell you a whole lot, other than, yeah, it has, like I said, you can have one strand of wire that's, one strand, all the rest of the strands are broken off, and you test the 2 pins that are together, and you're going to get 0 ohms of resistance through it. And then you're going to carry any amperage through it, but you got resistance. So then you're back to the beginning again. You're like, well, shit, what do I do now? So, you're kind of driving yourself crazy at that point, because I just checked everything, and everything checks good. Well, no, not really. It didn't. It's just a much better test than depending on resistance tests. Now, resistance tests are important for certain things, but voltage drop is going to tell you a lot more. It's like the difference between a compression test and a leak down test. One of them is going to tell you actually what's going on. The other one's just going to tell you, yeah, it's a little bit low on compression. Or one cylinder's lower than the other. Doesn't tell you why. This voltage drop is going to tell you a hell of a lot more than a resistance test. And really, that's all I got. Somebody had asked me a question about that, was having a problem with diagnosing something on their bike. And told them the resistance is good. Voltage is good. Well, you know what? You're going to have voltage drop from the battery through the switch, through your handlebar switches, all the way back, because you got connections that may or may not be perfect. And really, that's about it. check your meters, make sure the batteries are good. I'm notorious about leaving my damn meter on, and I'm not buying another one until probably next year. One that has an automatic shut off, because this one doesn't. I mean, it's a good meter, but automatic shut off's a nice function to have. If you're forgetful to leave your damn meter on, I think everybody does at one time or another. And good quality test leads. Don't use them little cheapo, really thin leads that can't hold nothing. They tend to break easy or burn out easy because they're really too small. So good heavy duty test leads. Buy them by the bag. Get the heavy duty ones, not the cheapo. Let me see if I got one laying out here. And that's not a cheap one. I actually had to make this one as a spare because I had some that were like way too small, entirely too small, and they can't handle any kind of current through them at all. And with that being said, check your batteries, make sure the connections are tight, and if you can, put some star washers up under the leads to the battery there. Take them off and brush them with a wire brush every once in a while, because they will corrode down under the terminals. And then spray them. Use battery spray. I use some kind of Napa battery spray that it's like purple. You spray it on, you clean your connections, put everything on there, and just give them a little spray over top of them. Kind of keeps corrosion at bay on your battery there. And check your battery terminals. Just make sure they're tight. And not all the time, but if you're doing a service on your bike, it'd probably be a good idea to at least pull them off there and give them a little brush or a little sanding with some sandpaper. Clean the terminals real good. Star washers under the terminals. Put them back down, tighten them, spray them, and that's pretty much it. If you have any questions about electrical or anything else, I'll be glad to try and answer them if I can. You guys have a damn fine week, and take care. Waiting for the internet to come back on. It's been out again. It was out all weekend. It was out all day Saturday, I think, or Friday or Saturday, and then out again today. I think they're putting lines in somewhere down the road. We've seen a row of trucks out there laying new line down on 301. So chances are they dug something up and got boxes apart or something to do with install. That's neither here nor there. Anyway, everybody take care. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for watching. Thanks for comments. You guys did super. Thanks. I appreciate it. Greatly appreciated. And guys, take care. See you soon.